Welcome back to another episode. This is episode 8 now in Real Talk with KC and JoJo. What's up, KC?
What's up, JoJo?
Today, we're going to talk about gender perspectives. Now, on the last one, I said, we're going to talk about genders. And you were like, what? You didn't know what I was talking about, but you were the one that inspired me to even bring it up because you had gotten out of the shower and you said, you know what, I'm going to talk about how much I can now relate to women. Can you explain?
So I have long hair. My hair probably goes down to about right here.
Wow.
Shoulder length, basically a little bit below the shoulder. I've never had my hair longer than maybe 3-4 inches at most my entire life. So when COVID hit, it was basically like, I can't go to the barber or whatever. So I'm just going to shave the sides and I'll cut my hair when this bullshit is over. Well, it's still growing. We're still going. So anyway, with long hair, I've learned a lot of the troubles that women go through with long hair. Basically, your hair falls out, it gets stuck in your fingers, it gets stuck in your groin area, it gets wrapped around certain parts. You find it in crevices. It's extremely frustrating. You got to comb it, you got to brush it,
You got to squeeze it out.
you got to squeeze it out afterwards. I'm like, holy shit, this is ridiculous. But I can't cut mine because I said I wouldn't cut it until COVID started. So as a dude, I can't imagine if I shaved my legs and shaved under my arms and shaved other various parts. Holy shit. I have such a bigger respect for women and all the stuff that they go through.
And you don't even have a whole set of hair. You don't have the whole
Right, it's
head
just the top.
either. It's just the top.
Just
Exactly.
the top. Shit. Exhausting.
So yeah, that's what brought us here. And we're going to take it a bit further and talk about how this even came about, the way that people perceive genders. And I think it goes way back to this patriarchy type of idea that I think stems from religion? What else?
Male dominance.
Yeah, but religion brings about that male dominance. What else?
The church, religion. Society.
And that's you're right, society. And so that's by the structures that have been put in place. And I take it a bit further and go to the interpretations that are or have been, what do you say, give and take, the interpretations of this patriarchy, man in the sky, and then everything underneath that. And I think that that's just been taken the wrong way. And that's why we are where we are.
Well, too, and let's take the Bible as an example.
Mm-hmm.
Adam and Eve, who bit into the apple.
Right? If you look at it that way, the way you mean the story.
But my point, the point is though, is that, even in the story of creation, women are deemed the one that, Eve.
Again, that's the interpretation. But
right.
What is the apple and what is Eve? And that's a whole nother story. That's the layers.
Yeah, metaphorically, but most people don't understand that side of the story. So
right, so they take it that way.
Right, it's taken as Eve bit the apple.
Right,
she was responsible for the fall of man. She opened Pandora's box, whatever. When it's not really how it
right
goes.
And if you look now around the world, there's still some cultures that still look at women as if they're less than or they are under than them, and they have to cover up, etc. All these things. And I think that's where this stems from. Really, it's the interpretation.
Yes, and it's funny. It's like personal story. Me and Joanna and I, basically, I was very much my you hear people say happy wife, happy life, right? And probably for the first, I don't know, half, maybe a little bit more of our relationship, marriage, like whatever, we both have to be happy, right? But I prescribe much more to that theory now. Happy wife, happy life.
You were so stubborn back then.
So stubborn. But that begs the question. So both of, and you probably heard me mention this before, both my grandparents were ministers, right? And there definitely was a hierarchy in terms of the church and the man and the woman in a supportive role and the man in the dominant role, what have you. But behind the scenes, my grandfather and grandmother would do the dishes together, right? And that, again, to me, even though it was something subtle and it was nothing that they bragged about, it was something that I noticed, and it sort of stuck with me, the balance that has to be between the male and the female.
Mhm.
But yeah, definitely religion, society, Adam and Eve. I mean, it's just depicted as if women are subservient. And, my personal belief, and this has probably happened over the last 5-ish years. I personally believe that women really should be running things. If that makes sense, run the world. We should have a woman based society, and one in which women are revered for the power that they hold. Right, like we men have power too, but we don't have the metaphysical, the that God creation power that women have, and that's to be respected to the umpteenth degree. And the fact of the way women's rights and the way everything is, and the way still things are still going, it's just not how it is, but it used to be that way, right?
And then if you look at society and how they sexualize women, it's kind of hard to put women on top and respect a woman if you're looking at her in a way where you're just sexualizing her and not really looking at her for the value that she brings as being a woman, a womb man. And that comes from, again, the conditioning that society itself has brought on everybody with sex, and it being a certain low vibrational type of way, like looking at everything with the five senses, with the desire. So now when people look at women, it's a desire. And I had a lot of this going on growing up, where I grew up in Miami, and you hear a lot of you get a lot of people that, how do you say this in English?
Say it in Spanish.
They flirt. So they flirt a lot, period. And women. So no, the guys, to the women, right? So I would get hit on, right? And it would always get to me like, what about the inside of me? What about my mental? What about my spiritual? What about, like, do you care if I'm smart? Do you care about anything besides just my looks? And even to this day, I'll post certain pictures because I've modeled my whole life. And so when I post certain pictures, again, I hear how I look. But the picture will be attached with a bunch of stuff that I've written that's very intellectual, that's very full of wisdom, things like that. And you'll hear, oh, you look gorgeous. You look so beautiful. And I'm going, did you read what I wrote? What about everything else? You know what I mean? And so that has a lot to do with it too, because it's like you are looked at as a woman as this shell, but that's it. Like, as if there's nothing in there, when we are the ones that bring about, spirit.
Yeah. And I don't think most dudes don't. I mean, they realize that women are more than just sex, but
I'm saying as a society.
I think that's the go-to. Yeah, that's the go-to move. I mean, that's for most men, they're conditioned with that lower nature passion, that just what's the word? We can't think of our words, right? But the drive, that sort of sex drive, that dominating a woman kind of feeling. I think with TV and television, they're animalistic,
the cardinal side,
it's magnified, and and reiterated in commercials and TV and the programming and everything else. But most men, even as teenagers, like that's, and kids, that's what we're taught, right? That women are sexual and women represent sexuality, when really it's just a distraction, right? It's just a representation of us being in our lower nature, and not, again, treating each other the way, men and women, the way we should, with respect and balance.
Yes. And I think that's where we missed the part in the Bible. Genesis 1:27, where it said, so God created man in his own image. In the image of God created he him, male and female created he them. And I think people
sound like some Dr. Seuss shit.
Skipped over people skipped over the male and female aspect part. And so I think
yeah. So like in a lot of ways, what you're saying, what you're putting down is that a man sexualizing a woman is almost his inner rejection of his own femininity, maybe.
Yeah.
Right? It's a mirror.
Sense, right? Yeah. Because I mean, we are supposed to balance each other out.
Now I have
energetically.
I have a special connection with my feminine side because I'm lucky enough that my moon is in Pisces, which magnifies the femininity in me and in every man, if you happen to have that same problem or blessing that I have.
Sensitive.
Yeah, but we all have feminine and masculine tendencies, and we are a balance of the two.
And especially now that you just mentioned the signs, I mean, it depends on your sign as well. I mean, I'm a Leo, it's a fixed fire sign, it's a male sign. I have a lot of male energy within me, right? And you're the female Virgo. So a lot of that is, I mean, we even did our rings, our wedding rings. I did the sun, you did the moon. It's male, female, the sun is male, the females. I'm just saying the energy. I mean, obviously on the outside we are who we are.
Right.
But on the inside, I think we're pretty even, actually. We just sometimes carry on one more than the other or balance each other out, really.
So I wanted to bring this up, and I was sort of skating on the edge of whether we should bring this up or not. So I made a comment. I've screwed up royally 2 times in the last, I don't know, couple of weeks with a couple of things relationship wise. The first one was subtle, but it wasn't subtle. And I told her that she was firm yet
fluffy.
And I brought that up at the gym I coach at, and some of the women there were highly like, yo, you fucked up. And I'm like, she didn't take it that way. And I'm like, she took it that way. So did you take it that way?
I'm more upset that you erased my phone number.
Yes. And okay. Well, I messed up 3 times there because I forgot about that. So we something happened. Doesn't matter. I'm not gonna get into the details, but I was like, I deleted. I'm like, you deleted. Which was stupid.
Deleted all those messages. Yeah.
But the funny thing is that she got real mad at me because it was just her phone number. She's like, I'm just a phone number now. But little does she know that I've gone in and replaced her name, a new name. It doesn't say what it used to say. It used to say Joanna Crowder. Now it says something totally different, but she hasn't seen it yet. So she still thinks that she's just a number in my phone. Like 2 days later after you said it. It's been there for like weeks. Ask the kids. They know.
Okay.
So anyway, that I forgot about that one. That was number 2. Well, here's the third one. So we, got into, in a lot of ways, we're like brother and sister, right? So we fight like brothers and sisters. Not physically, but you feel me, right? So anyway, so we were sort of in a brother-sister scenario, and I basically gave her permission to tell me straight up if I was being a punk, whatever, just be blunt with me. Well, she has used it and used it and used it. It was like I gave her permission, and she was just so excited about using it and just being blunt with me. Yeah. I can't think of any examples. You got any that you can come off the top of your head?
About how you need to get your shit together.
Yeah, like it's brutal, man. So I messed up. I forgot it was 3, but those are my 3 blips.
Yeah. So they told you that the firm and fluffy was
firm
bad?
And fluffy. Yeah, firm and fluffy is bad. And I'm like, why is that bad? I mean, firm means that you're muscular, which is nice, thick, right? Fluffy meaning you're soft. I was like, I thought that sounded kind of cute, and they were offended. But it gets into the gender conversation, right? Like, why were they offended?
Right.
Because if I'm fluffy, I'm fat, and if I'm fat, I'm not good enough because that's not what a woman should be, and this, that, and the other.
Look at the pictures from back in the day. The women were way more, voluptuous than they are now, because we went through that whole 90s, or was it 80s or 70s? When was it when the girls were like super, super skinny? Then it became a thing when they were thick. These are all like fads that go in and out, and really we just need to cherish our temple.
So let's talk about divinity rising.
Okay. So
what is that?
basically, we're coming into the age of Aquarius, the man with a pitcher of water. And that symbolizes a time where we are being washed by light. We are being guided from within with wisdom. And so how does that happen? It happens through our spirit. We don't know this, but metaphysically, the mind represents the male, the male aspect, the father. The spirit is represented by the woman, by the mother. And so this divinity that's rising because of the age of Aquarius, it's basically the spirit that's coming to us, the spirit it's not coming to us, but we're able to now feel it. We're able to rise up to it, because you do have to make conscious decisions to rise up to meet your own spirit from within. You have to come to a place of stillness in order to rise, to ascend to a place where you can integrate with spirit, to have that feminine energy blend in with the intellectual side. The male is all that we have been, like what we've been around is this male dominance. And now that femininity, that softer side of seers, right?
Yes.
We didn't get paid from them. The softer side of seers, and then also like just how we're able to capture things spiritually versus being completely blinded like we were before in the dark ages.
Yeah. And do you think that the divinity rising is happening in females? That's who you're referring to, correct?
No, period.
But also in men, meaning the
right.
femininity in men and women is rising naturally.
The energy that is coming to us now is wisdom, is spirit, which is feminine energy, versus the mind, the man, the ego, that's more male energy.
Right.
So we have this divinity, this whole spiritual awakening happening right now. We are all awakening to our own spirits that are within us.
Right. Which also is a struggle, right?
Yeah.
For those that resist.
Right.
And for those that are having problems dropping the programming, the things that they've been taught by society, by their parental structure, their experiences, fear, right? Yeah, and it's like for us, it's hilarious because I'm very female in a lot of ways, and she's very male in a lot of ways, but at the same time,
it's total opposite too.
Yeah, she's extremely female in a lot of ways, and I'm extremely
male,
male in a lot of ways. So, I think if you're in in a relationship and being open and honest with your partner and being able to express that femininity as a guy, I think is extremely important. And as a woman, it's a very fine line, because she talks to me now. She couldn't talk to me now. Like, let me hold on. Did I say that right? She can't talk to me back then like she can now, right? Like if she had said the things, if she would address me the way she would now with some things, I would probably react. I would get angry, get hurt, get upset, right? Right.
Okay. Can you give me an example?
Now, like if she's saying you need to step up your game, you just need to, put your big boy pants on, whatever. I take that and I understand what she's doing. I understand the what she's trying to communicate to me, which is basically just, handle your business. Right. But before I wouldn't have been able to handle that. But for guys, you need to be comfortable with your woman correcting you. And ladies, you need to be very safe with your man when he expresses himself, especially in the early stages, because I know for me, it's very hard for me to let my guard down, because then I'm vulnerable. Right. And then, I'm worried about whether I'm going to get judged. I'm going to get called a bitch, all these things that we've been programmed to think as guys.
Yeah.
So it's like, walk your man through that. But at the same time, you have to hold him accountable. And, same thing with guys.
I mean, it's just about understanding this duality, this aspect of the yin and the yang, right? I mean, there's the sun and the moon, there's the dark, that's the day and the night, that's the same thing. But basically hot and cold, We can be angry one minute, we could be excited the next. I mean, there's duality in everything. So if we can understand that there is duality in everything and it's not just one-sided, then we can not only be acceptable, like be accepting of the other person's duality, but be accepting of our own duality, because a lot of times we just reject our shadow aspects, our dark side. We don't want to look into that because it's hard, and it's a duality that's within us that we need to look into, that we need to accept. The more we accept, the more we become one, and the more you are one within yourself, the more you will attract that other half, or that twin flame, or that person or partner or soulmate that's supposed to be in alignment with you to learn whatever lessons are meant to be learned. And that can only happen when you come into that alignment with your male and female aspects. We even have physically in our anatomy the pituitary and the pineal, both signifying the male and the female being the pituitary and the pineal being the male. So all of it, from the microscopic to the macroscopic, and all in between, is not just connected but intertwined and has to be accepted. And right now it's just not accepted. It's like one is better than the other, and that's not the case.
Yeah, it's an ebb and flow and push and pull, not just a trying to be cooperative and trying to understand the other. And like we our last podcast was on infidelity, right?
Right.
And it's interesting because one of the things that I wanted to say, and it kind of ties hand in hand with this in that podcast that I didn't mention, is that, because both Joanna and I went through similar experiences in terms of our own infidelity stories, we didn't talk about how important it is that I understood what she was going through. And so she understood what I was going through, if that makes sense. So in other words,
Yeah.
Because she had feelings for another person, I did too at one point in our relationship. I could always go back and go, remember when you felt that way, right? Remember when you were confused. Remember when you didn't want it to be this way, but at the same time, you had a pull towards this other individual that you didn't really know how to process, didn't really know how to handle. But it was in those tough moments where you kind of recenter yourself on that remembering and that grace and that forgiveness, and just, they have to experience their journey, right? Any man out there who's dealing with issues of not feeling like he can cry and not feeling like he can express himself, you're the only person that can figure this out, right? You have to allow yourself to go through the process. The same thing, for a woman. But because we all are one of the same, right? We all have feminine and male aspects. You have the ability to understand the other party on another level if you allow it to happen, right? So in other words, embracing your femininity if you're a guy, embracing your masculinity if you're a woman, and doing that, it helps open up sort of a deeper level of understanding to where, communicating in a relationship, understanding the ebb and flows of masculinity and femininity, and understanding that you both possess these things, allows your relationship to sort of take a different direction and a deeper level of understanding that sort of opens you up to more truths, and it just makes those roots that much deeper, right?
Right. Like emotions, for example, are
I feel like that was a lot of coach speak. I didn't really say anything.
No.
But I did.
Emotions are female, right? And so a lot of times, there's the males that don't want to express their emotions. They don't want to express their female. And that's the part that gets suppressed. And not just male. I mean, like, I haven't even mentioned this to you, but like, what? The last
PTSD. Shit.
Not live. Like, remember when we broke up and you were leaving, when I wrote you the poem, and
the last time, like the ultimate time, the penultimate breakup.
Yes. So, we talked about how I was like, okay, I'm going to go to wherever the wind blows and see what rabbit hole I get into, right? Because I was upset. But I've been processing lately, some emotions, and I'm like, I think I totally forgot and suppressed all of my emotions and the sadness and the deep pain that I felt then, because yes, I masked it by doing other things, but I suppressed how awful I was feeling when you said we were done and you left. And like all of these years, it's stuff has been piled on top of it. And I've been like slowly like, what's under there? What's under there? And then I'm like, oh shit, I forgot about you. I forgot how devastated and, because we talked last time about the time in New York and how devastated I was, but that was forever ago. And I totally forgot how devastated I was this last time. And I feel like I've just been suppressing it. So to uncover all of these things that we place on top of our emotions so that we don't feel the pain is a process that is part of healing. And again, that's the feminine aspect. That's that spiritual aspect. That's the divine rising. And so we all have to kind of go, okay, what have I been suppressing? What emotions have I not been wanting to face or deal with that are going to help me heal, that are going to help me become more balanced in that whole male-female aspect?
Yeah, that was good.
So you didn't know that, but I'm just sharing.
Thanks for sharing.
You're welcome. So yeah.
Yeah, and then sort of, I think it's helpful to, well, again, hopefully, this is helping. The point is we want to like understand that normalizing the feeling of feeling both energies is completely normal, right? And you should look into it and you should delve into it, and understanding your horoscope and your signs and all that stuff will kind of help you understand a little bit more of
not your horoscope.
You'll have not your horoscope, it's your chart.
your
chart, right? Will help you understand, the depths and sort of what your strengths and weaknesses are, and it'll help you sort of have those aha moments of, oh yeah, this is me. Because I remember when I read mine, I'm like, it's like my moon's in Pisces. I cry at movies, and I'm like, that's why. Because I'm like over there and I'm tearing up, and
it helps you understand yourself.
Yeah, it helps you understand yourself, which understanding yourself is the key to unlocking really, I think, a healthy and balanced relationship, right?
Mm-hmm.
But I think too, it's helpful to kind of talk about, just as a couple of examples, some of the things that we do as a couple that balances the male and female energy. So for example, the dishes, right?
Yeah.
How do we do that?
So you wash and I put them in the dishwasher because I like placing them. I think it just comes to a point of like what we prefer, right? Like I prefer to put them in there and you prefer to wash. Like where most people go, oh, the woman needs to be the one doing the dishes, the man needs to take out the trash. I mean, when it comes to the trash.
So we do everything together, right?
Yeah.
So like in the dish situation, it's not she's going to do the dishes by herself. And that's not to say that sometimes we don't do that, but as a whole, we try to do them together. So it's like I'm more detailed in terms of if a dish has a big, crusty spot on it, I'm going to get that off because that's a Virgo tendency. I don't want to stick it in the dishwasher because then it's going to come out with some crusty shit on it. I'm going to be pissed off. Right. So I got to get the crusty stuff off. And that I enjoy doing that because that's like a pet peeve of mine. Joanna likes the placing and the organizing and the stacking. So for us, it's like, I'll do that part, works for me. She'll do that part, works for her, works for us. Right. And so
you take out the trash.
Right. Like I take the trash out of the trash can to the dumpster or to the whatever, and then take the bin to the road. That's what I do.
Right.
You
put the trash bag into the new trash can because you hate doing that.
Freaking hate it. So yeah, I do way more work just so that I don't have to put the trash bag in the freaking trash can. But what's
cool is that you don't even have to say anything. Like we don't have to say anything. We see that it's full. So you take it out. If I see that there's no bag in there because he's taking it out, well, then it's my job to put the new bag in because that's my responsibility. And so nothing has to be said. We just do what we do and we do it all chop chop.
Yeah. I like to use the term dancing with that. Right. Yeah. So it's a lot, it's a lot like dancing. If you dance salsa, merengue, anything that requires you to lead and to be led, it's a dance. Yeah. And so, doing chores, doing trash, doing the dishes. It's a dance.
Another thing with the chores, right? Like you do the sweeping and I do the picking up part.
Right. Like if I sweep the floor, I don't have to say anything. I leave the pile there and then she sees it and goes, oh, he swept. I'll pick it up.
Yeah. I love that. It just works for us.
But it's dancing. And again, it's cool because there's an unspoken confidence that you feel, when you don't have to say a word, and you just communicate with your partner, and they do what you expect them to do and you do what they expect you to do. And there's signals that are sometimes given, like, if the trash is full, she may or may not say something, she may leave the top open, whatever. There's signals. But I accept the role and that responsibility, and she does too, that there's never a time where I see the trash is up and it's not full, I'm going to ignore it. No, I'm going to handle it in that moment. She then handles it in that moment, and it's done.
It
And you
takes
move on.
away from the fighting and the arguing, and it's like,
Right. And there's no resentment.
we're just one trying to do this together.
It's a perfect balance, right?
Yeah,
It's a
let's
give and
balance
take.
it out.
And there's no resentment, and it's just an understood way of life.
Right.
The
You
balance.
are moving, or is it?
Well, then you've talked about the left brain and right brain, right?
The left brain being male, the right brain being female. Again, the female being the spirit, the male being the mind, the intellectual side.
Yeah, and I think, again, it's about taking advantage of the strengths and weaknesses of you and your partner, and being comfortable communicating that, right? In terms of, your emotional tendencies and how you really feel, and embracing the femininity and masculinity in each other.
Right. And within yourself.
And within yourself. Yes.
Especially within yourself. Yeah.
Right.
Is that it?
I think so.
I think that basically covers, like, there's so much more that we can talk about as far as genders. There's sexuality, there's so much. But the what I really wanted to get to was just the importance. What is that noise? It's driving me crazy. The importance of the two, and the two being one, very equal.
Can't focus, Kenny.
No, I'm about to burst.
Yeah, she hears any noises, like our kids, poor things. They're like, you.
I'm about to burst.
You have to.
Oh my God.
You're a robber. While we're on doing a podcast, you're a thief. You can't make any noise in your own house.
All right. Thank you guys so much for watching. I have to go handle this.
Somebody's breathing too loud. Let's go get them.
Let's go get them. Peace.
Does that mean it's
recording is in progress? Alrighty. You gonna stay still for a second?